are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So can you breathe right now?
Yep, absolutely. It's been a huge success, so we can all relax a little bit.
Yeah. What brings us to day zero of Fintech 24? It must be very challenging, a lot of stress. So can you tell us the story or the journey of Fintech 24?
Sure. So Saudi Arabia is definitely a global fintech hub. So to have the opportunity to create an event or create a movement like this has been really exciting. So in terms of the journey, over the last 18 months, we've really prioritized creating a movement that has genuine outcome. So in terms of the journey, around 18 months ago, we began working with Fintech Saudi on this project. So Fintech Saudi are a huge enabler of the startup and fintech ecosystem here in Saudi Arabia. So we began learning more about their ambition, and we began learning more about what they're doing in terms of supporting the finance ecosystem on the lead up to Vision 2030. So we decided to create a product with them that enabled the local ecosystem, but also attracted the international market as well. So over the last 18 months, we've worked with FSDP, the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, the Capital Markets Authority, the Insurance Authority, and Fintech Saudi to understand the goals of Vision 2030 and also how we can innovate the fintech ecosystem, but also doing it safely, ensuring that regulation is in place. So it's been a really exciting journey to get to this point where we are today. And we can very much say today that we've got a hugely international event that's brought together the entire ecosystem, all the way from regulators, banks, fintech, startups.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's very interesting, especially when we talk about governmental and regulatory bodies that are here and behind this event as well. What does this say about the KSA vision and also the will to invest in fintech, especially that is main part of the 2030 vision?
For sure. So fintech and finance is hugely important to Vision 2030. And I think what's really important about Saudi Arabia is the fact that it's quite a young population. So people are connected every single day. We're constantly looking at our banking or how we spend our money. So it's become a really pivotal part of Vision 2030. And His Excellency, the Minister of Finance, actually mentioned yesterday that 70% of transactions in 2023 were actually cashless. So it shows how important this particular sector is. So the reason that we have this event here today is really to support Saudi Arabia on the lead up to Vision 2030 to ensure that this event becomes a strategic pillar which helps them to achieve these ambitious goals. So that's why we brought in speakers from Hong Kong, Singapore, the United States, all over Europe and the Americas actually, to contribute to all of these different exciting things that Saudi Arabia are actually doing. So when you unite the entire ecosystem globally and locally, you're able to bring together some of the most innovative minds to actually support on these strategies. So it's a great place to be.
It's a great place to be, and I mentioned just like coming here is something like paying with waves, just like with hands. I was like, I'm gonna come back. It's amazing. Yeah. How do you see this fintech? I don't know how you can simplify it for people, but how it's like affects our daily lives.
Yeah. So fintech impacts basically everything that we do on a day-to-day. We think about how we make payments on our phones, or we think about how we transfer money. When we look at 24 Fintech, one of the reasons that it's actually called 24 Fintech is because it's a 24-hour industry. Money never sleeps. So if you think about that and how it impacts our daily lives, it essentially touches everything that we do. We go to the supermarket and we pay for something. We go online on UNAS in Saudi Arabia and we order something. Fintech contributes to all of these elements that we're doing on a day-to-day. So I think for the normal person who isn't an expert in finance or isn't an expert in fintech, it still impacts their daily lives every day, even when you go online and you order something, right? So it affects all of us.
Yeah, I'm team fintech anyway, because I think it's about, if you ask me, it's about customer service.
Yeah, I understand.
Anything that makes our lives easier, so that's amazing. But it's a disruptive field at the same time. It's ever changing at the same time. So how was it challenging for you to prepare? And can you share with us a memorable story of the challenges and obstacles you faced, like organizing such?
For sure. So when we began working on this project, we really wanted to do the ecosystem justice. And what I mean by that is we wanted to ensure that the content was valuable. We want people to come here to learn, to network, and to be educated. And a lot actually goes into that. We spent months, researching and engaging the ecosystem. We did hundreds of research calls to international markets and local markets. We had to talk to all of the companies that are providing technology solutions that are actually disrupting this sector. So we needed to understand exactly what was taking place and how it was going to be disrupted so that we can put together all of that interesting content that we see here today. So if you look at the Executive Summit, that's really touching on the policy and the regulation and the governmental support. But then we also have the Future Trend stage, and this is looking at the major trends in fintech. In addition to that, we have the Fintech Fusion stage, and that's looking at the startups and the investor ecosystem. So all of the content that we researched and all of the primary research that we did over the last few months or the last year, we can actually see come to life today. And I think that was the biggest challenge, ensuring that we gave the ecosystem what they wanted and ensuring that we provided this market with the right content that was valuable, that would lead them to business opportunities, contracts, and to understanding more.
Yeah, that's nice. But I'm going to ask you about the ecosystem here in the region in KSA. How do you see it? How is it developing?
Yeah, so I think when we look at the ecosystem, it's really important to look at the startups, particularly the startups in Saudi Arabia. They're currently so disruptive within this space, and we're seeing new startups come into the finance and fintech sector, and they're actually disrupting, what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's really important, the fact that we've got the startups here who are disrupting what we're doing on a day-to-day, but we also have the banks and the regulators here. So we're looking at finance a little bit more traditionally, and we also have the regulators to ensure that this change is being done in a safe manner. So the fact that the entire ecosystem here is good, and I think what we're going to see over the next couple of years is this ecosystem expand and grow. It was mentioned yesterday that by 2030 we'll have 550 fintech players here within Saudi Arabia. So that's significant growth from where we are today versus where we're going to be in 2030. So I think that's what we need to consider, ensuring that these big decisions, these big changes, all of this disruption is done in collaboration with the entire ecosystem. So it's safe, it's practical, but it's also innovative.
Yeah, I think even now it's like fintech in Saudi Arabia ecosystem, it's supposed to jump from $64 billion to I think 87, 90 billion dollars, which is amazing, creating like 18,000 jobs.
Yeah.
But can we imagine the future of fintech? Because if you ask me about like 10 years, 20 years, no one can see it or foresee it, that the fintech of today.
Yeah.
So can we imagine the future of fintech and be prepared for it?
For me, it would be so hard to imagine the future of fintech. I mean, even where we've come over the last 10 years, we've gone from pretty much doing everything in cash to it being, almost a cashless economy with 70% of people paying on card or paying via their mobile apps. So that already is a huge transition. I think the best way to learn about the potential of the future of finance would be to go to all of the different sessions today and hear it directly from all of the experts that we have from all around the world and here in Saudi Arabia. But for me, it would be impossible to predict. It's growing at such a fast pace. It's so exciting that I can't even imagine, what this will look like in the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you also about this 24 Fintech.
Yeah.
It's not the only project for Tahal, I believe, but how would you assume its success? How would you see it was successful events? And in other words, what are the outcomes that you are looking for?
Sure. So as Tahal, we always launch events in Saudi Arabia's most strategic markets, particularly sectors that impact Vision 2030. when we look at the success of 24 Fintech, we have a lot of key matrices that we would look at. I mean, there's the basics in terms of, we've got a sold out venue and we've got a massive audience here across the 3 days. But what we really care about for this particular event is the outcome, how it's going to support Saudi Arabia in terms of their finance and their fintech roadmap, how many deals and contracts have actually been signed across the last 3 days, how many startups have actually been invested in through VentureScape or during the show days itself. So it will be these key elements that we really use as success matrices. And another key element for us is the international audience. We've had international registrations of over 10,000. And yesterday by itself, we had over 2,000 international attendees. So that's really important for us, bringing in individuals from international markets to come here to understand more about Saudi Arabia, to work with FSDP, work with Fintech Saudi, work with SAMA, CMA, the Insurance Authority, and to support Saudi Arabia and the wider ecosystem. So there's a lot of ways we'd measure the success of this event.
So if I'm gonna ask you about Annabelle Mandel.
Yeah.
Being not just like VP of Tahal, but also senior VP, but also a pioneer, entrepreneur, innovation. What brings you into this venture, especially being a woman, which is, I'm proud of it, by the way, but how was it?
It's absolutely incredible. Over the last 4 years, Saudi Arabia has provided me with opportunities that I genuinely don't believe that I would have been able to get anywhere else. I'm really proud to be Senior Vice President at Tahal. I'm really proud that 55% of my team are female, and these are females from all around the world. Over the last year, we've relocated so many individuals from across Europe and Asia to come to Saudi Arabia, to be based here in Riyadh, to be part of Tahal's success story. And that's really important because I don't know if I would have been able to have that opportunity if all of the right ingredients weren't there. I'm in the right industry, I'm working with amazing government partners, I've got a hugely supportive team that I love working with every day. So it's almost like the perfect storm of ingredients that has allowed me to be here today. So I'm very thankful to Saudi Arabia for that, and also to our partners here in Saudi who have helped support that.
So the 13 years old girl who was like working, and I believe in a pet food
Yes,
store.
that's true.
Did you imagine or plan yourself to be, did you see yourself?
Absolutely not, no. Like when I first started working, I was 13 years old. I've always been a really hard worker, I've always been a kind of go out there and get it done type person. So I started work when I was 13, I supported myself through school and university, and then I moved to the Middle East when I was 21. And over the last 4 years, I think Saudi Arabia has provided me with opportunities that wouldn't have otherwise been possible. So I never predicted this, but I'm 100% here for the ride. It's been a complete roller coaster. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Saudi Arabia offers over the next few years. It's highly ambitious, it's changed so much, and it really is a great city to be living in.
How did it change you or help you build your personality, your character, and also your career?
Yeah. It definitely changed me over the last year or two because I've moved and relocated so many of my team to Saudi Arabia. So I feel a huge sense of responsibility to ensure that they have incredible careers, ensure that their earning potential is right, ensure that they're working on products that they're excited about. And I think that's why it's great to be at Tahal. I am genuinely excited about all of the products that we work on. Within my portfolio, I have Leap, I have Black Cat, I have Deep Fest, and now we have 24 Fintech. So I'm delighted to be able to support my team on those opportunities because my team's hugely talented, they're hugely international. So it's an exciting place for them to be. And I think particularly for 24 Fintech, we're very thankful to our government partners there. We're thankful to FSDP, the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, the Capital Markets Authority and Insurance Authority, and also our co-organisers at Fintech Saudi, because they've worked with us to create this exciting brand that's impacting the correct ecosystem. And that makes my team really excited. So there's a lot to be thankful for there.
And what's next for you?
Immediately after this, a long sleep and a holiday. But in
spa day.
Yeah, a spa day, a relax. But over the next few years, keep launching strategic projects that position Saudi as a global events hub. Continue to contribute to the business tourism that's coming into Saudi Arabia. But most importantly, just enjoying myself in Riyadh with my team and being lucky enough to work at Tahal.
I think you deserve it.
Thank you
very
so
much,
much.
Annabelle.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.